going to start a new part, and I'm just going to use my inch swarm template. And so I'm just going to make that bushing. You might think to make that bushing you're going to start with a donut shape, but maybe I'm going to have some bushings that doesn't have the hole in it. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the outside shape and play along with me. Save what you're working on and play my little reindeer games with me. So save what you're working on, start a new part, and play along. This will help you. So once you get your new part started, I'm going to start a new sketch on my front plane. And I'm going to draw a circle on the origin. And I'm going to add a dimension, diameter dimension of my circle. I'm just going to make it 1. And I want you to realize that your dimensions have names. SolidWorks gives those dimensions a name as you create them. So this one is D1 at sketch 1. So all the dimensions have a name and they're related to a particular sketch. You can change that name. For simplicity's sake, you might rename that and call it A. So I just typed in a capital A. So I replaced the D1 with A. You still got to keep the at sketch 1 and all that business. It doesn't work without that, so don't change that. So now I'm going to extrude this. And I'm just going to extrude it 3 long. So I've got a 1-inch cylinder, 3 inches long. And I want to take a look at that dimension for the cylinder. So if I double click the extrusion in my feature manager, I can actually see the dimensions, and if I pick on the 3 dimension, it shows up in my property manager just like we did before. And I can rename that to be B if I want. So I'm going to change this D1 at boss extrude 1 to be B at boss extrude 1. So in order to do that, I had to double click. I'll do it again. So I had to double click the feature over here. Double click the boss extrude in the feature manager. And then I had to click on the 3 dimension. And you may have to, move your mouse to where you can get the dimension clearly. And then I'm going to rename that to be B. And finally, I'm going to start a new sketch on the end here. And I'm going to sketch another circle with the center point on the origin. And I'm going to add a dimension for it. I'm going to set it to 0.5. And I'm going to rename that one to C. It's not necessary that you rename these if you can keep straight in your mind what you're working on. That's for your benefit. So I'm going to extrude cut that hole all the way through. So I'm going to use through all. And so I've got this very simple part here, right? And I can control the size of it with a spreadsheet in Microsoft Excel. So I'm going to save my part. I'm just going to save it. I'm going to call it bushing. Actually, I'm going to call it bushings plural. And get in the habit of putting a, in reality, I guess we should get, what should we be in a habit of right now? What am I trying to encourage us to be in a habit of doing? Yeah. So file names really should be part numbers, not description, right? And here you about caught me doing a description. So I'm not going to call it file name bushing. I'm going to call it B 1000. And then my description is going to be bushing, right? We really need to be in a habit of doing that. We need to be using unique part numbers for our parts, and that's going to make our bill of materials more appropriate. So we're going to pick OK or save here, and now we've got our part saved. So who remembers how to go to the configuration manager? It's right up here, right? This guy right here is your configuration manager. So you can see we've got the default configuration. So we want to put a design table into this drawing. So a design table is a Microsoft Excel worksheet. So we're going to go to Insert, Tables, Design Table. So insert on the pull down, tables down toward the bottom, and design table. And I don't even know what all these options do. I've never read them, never really paid a whole lot of attention to them. I just accept the defaults and everything seems to be nice. So if something starts behaving weird, maybe we'll take a closer look at those. So a lot of times, the first time you create the design table, SolidWorks will go and look at all the dimensions and say, hey, tell me which ones you want. Just for fun, if you've got this box, let's put A and B, but let's just accidentally forget C. Okay, so I've highlighted A and B. In reality, we want C too, but in this case, I'm just going to put the 2 on there and go on. So when I pick OK and I pick that, those dimensions come into my design table, all right? Did that work for everybody? Did that work? You're still coming?
No, I didn't get the size of that hole. Yeah, I got behind.
Okay, well just put a dimension on there. Okay, no, so you don't have a dimension on there yet. That's okay, just pick those 2. Yeah, go through there after this. Alright, so everybody got that? Good. So this table, the way this works, every row is a part. So right now our part is called default. So if we add information to 4, we're going to add new parts to our drawing or to our model. Don't monkey with rows 1 and 2. Just leave those be. Okay. So let's do this. So let's change the default. Let's call it B 1001, and then we'll make right underneath that we'll make a B 1002, and let's just we'll make the A 1.5 and the 3 2.75, and the numbers are really not that special, so don't get behind trying to get the exact same numbers. And I'll zoom in here so you can see them. And I'm going to add a couple of decimal places because I'm putting 7.5 and it's only showing up, it's rounding to 1 decimal place. So I've highlighted the cells that I want to change. And up here under the number format, you can click, this arrow to add more decimal places. So, and then you may need to make the columns wider. And if you click outside of the Excel window, it closes on you. That's what happened to you, Jack. So go ahead and poke your hole through there and let's get caught up. So is everybody able to get more decimal places showing up? Okay, so what that means when you see the pound signs in Excel is your column's too narrow to show them. So if you'll double click in between the B and the C columns up here, it'll kind of auto size to fit it. And then do that again between C and D. So double click in the, there you go. Okay, so see where it says tables there? Hit the arrow beside that. And there it is, right? So right click on it. So if you click outside of this window, Excel closes and you're back into SolidWorks. So that's how you get out of it. You hit the check mark. Nope, you just click outside of it. All right, if you happen to have clicked outside of it and you want to get back into it, you have to hit the little triangle here beside tables and then right click on your design table and pick edit table and take you right back in there. So everybody got on 4 parts made here? Got some numbers in there, got 2 decimal places showing up?
No, I missed how to do that.
Okay, so highlight the columns that you want to change, the numbers that you want to change, and up here, I can't reach it, but with the arrow pointing to the left and the decimal places, you can add decimal places to your numbers really easy that way. There's other ways to do it. If you're an Excel junkie, then there's other ways to change that too, but that's a quick way to do it. If you get the pound signs like Dylan did, it's because the column's too narrow to show the 2 decimal places. Just click between the headers here and it'll auto size. So everybody here? All right, so let's hit the check mark. And what should happen, it may say, hey, your design table's about to create some new configurations. Okay, so highlight all of it. Do you want to change the numbers or? Okay. So just click in there and so highlight the top right there. Top and change.
Yeah.
So to change the numbers, type the numbers, and use decimal places. You highlight that is. So you want to just change the numbers. So you don't want them to be the same because you won't see it change. So take a minute there and change it before I hit go and you can see it. Yeah, and when it gives you that, when you click outside of it and it says, hey, I'm about to create that, just click OK. And then just change configurations like you normally would. Just double click the configurations listed there and watch it update. So we want to see more decimal places here, right? So let's highlight all those. So pick and drag around. There you go. Get all the way down. You just want them all. There you go. Okay. We want to add more decimal places, so that's this guy right there. Add one more. So now it's too wide to fit, so double click between the B and the C. So we'll do it again between C and D. Sure. So when you got out of it, it created those configurations, right? And then you could change it, and your part got bigger or smaller, right? Everybody's changed okay? Yeah, so click outside of that. And it says, hey, I made these new configurations, so that's okay. And then you switch to your configuration. Just jockey between them and see. So I just got So Matthew just reminded me of one of the nuances about this. And as you work with design tables, I want to encourage you to do little bits at a time. What I mean by that is if you add another column, check to make sure it's going to work. Because if you add a column that's invalid and then you type 50 rows of data, it's going to just say sorry. That's invalid column. And then all the data that you typed is going to just disappear. Right, Matthew? So, ease into it when you make changes to columns. Okay? And that's what we're wanting to do now. We're wanting to get our C in there. You know, we could have picked it and we'd be done, right? But I wanted to show you how to get new ones in there. A couple of different ways that you can do that. If you know the name, you can just type it right here. I don't remember what it was. It's probably C at sketch 2, probably. I don't know. I could guess. I could type that. One of the things that when you type this at symbol in Microsoft Excel, by default, what does it think that is? What do we use every day that's got that at symbol in it? Close. What?
Email?
Email, that's right. Eric said email address. So if you type C at sketch 1, Excel automatically wants to think, hey, that's an email address. I bet you want to make this a hyperlink, right? And then because it's email address, I bet you want to hyperlink this to Microsoft Outlook. So when you type in fact, you can just do it if you want. Let's just type, C at. So if you go back into it, everybody know how to get back into it. You expand the table so you can see it. You edit the table, and just type C at 1, and then press enter and get out of it. And it's probably going to underline it and be blue, right? So let me just tell you right now, you don't want to click on that when it's underlined in blue, because it's going to start trying to open up Outlook. The whole world starts crumbling down. So how do you fix that? Use the arrow keys to go back and highlight that cell. Don't click on it with a mouse. If you click on it with a mouse, anybody opening up Outlook right now? Nobody's doing it yet? Okay, good. Use the arrow keys to highlight on it, right mouse click and say remove hyperlink. Alright, so everybody get that hyperlink out of there? And once it's not underlined in blue, it's okay to click on it. But when it's blue and underlined, don't click it. Just know that. I learned that the hard way many times, because I do it almost every time. Alright, so we're wanting to get that C in there. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to get out of the table to get back into Excel. So, back into the part. So let's get out of the table. Let's go back to the feature manager for a second, and let's double click on the cut extrude. So that'll bring up our diameter dimension. Everybody able to get that on there? So once you can see that on the screen, let's go back to the configuration manager and edit our table. It disappeared again. Can we go back and click on it still?
Yeah, you can look at it while it's
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we could have done this without. And if you get something in there that you don't really want, which I don't want this right now, I'm going to add it later. Did that come in on everybody's? The state of the cut extrude?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, let's just leave it there. And then I'm going to move over to the E column. And with that column highlighted, I left click on that dimension that I want to bring into it, or double click on it actually. Did everybody get that dimension into there? So you want to have the column highlighted and then double click your dimension. It should bring it in. And then we can add some values to this. So let's make this one 0.75. Make that one 1, and then 1 1/8. And then we may want to add more decimal places, so we can continue to fix our decimal places so that we can see them. Question, Cameron?
You got it. Did you type it in or? Actually, let's click right here. Does you call it C and cut extrude? It's actually C and switch to. So just pick a lead here.
All right, so I've added 3 decimal places on my C so I can see it. I've got 0.5, 0.75, 1, and 1.2. Again, the numbers are not really that critical. They need to be smaller than the main diameter of A. But now I accidentally brought in this other column which says $state. Any idea what that means? And then it says unsuppressed. State at cut extrude 1. What do you think that might mean?
The condition of the feature?
Right, so this one says unsuppressed, right, in the 1001. What do you think that means?
It's on there, it's not hidden.
That's right. So the hole is unsuppressed. So this cut extrude, which is truly the hole, right, going through there, is unsuppressed on this particular configuration, right? What if we didn't want a hole to show up on number 4?
Click it and change it to suppressed.
That's right. Okay, so if yours doesn't have this on there, the reason mine came in, when I tried to click this dimension, I actually picked on this first, and it came into my column. So you can do the same thing, just like we brought the dimension in by picking on the dimension. If you have your column highlighted, pick this, and it'll probably bring that suppression state.
Is that related to how far?
Nope, it's just on or off.
Okay.
There you go. And that's fine that it's there. And to get rid of that, you can just delete that whole column. So just click on delete factor. Do it. So, you know, we can copy this down and then change the number 4 to suppressed. You can also abbreviate that as U or S. Doesn't have to be typed out all the way.
I hit escape and made mine disappear.
Yeah, you edited it just like you've been doing. Right click, edit table.
Let me edit
Okay, you've got some, probably you may have to close that, whatever's going on there. Then let it go from there. Yep. There you go. All right, so I'm just going to use. Well, it's actually, and then I'm just going to put an S in there for suppressed. So I just, you know, you can use or S, but if you type U, Excel wants to go ahead and put it all in there, so it was cheap and easy.
I don't love drop down arrow.
What's that?
There's a drop down arrow if you click it.
Okay. So when you hit the check mark now, and if you go to that number 4, it shouldn't have a hole in it. but all the others should. So any feature can be controlled, the state of it can be controlled with the design table. All the dimensions can be controlled with the design table. Materials can be controlled with the design table. Colors can be controlled with the design table. Right? It's just a matter of having that column in there and the information set for that particular part. So hopefully, just this little bit of an overview of how to get back in and edit the table and understanding when you click outside of it, it closes down. You know, hopefully that'll make that a little less rocky while you're working on it through the book. You know, I'm not expecting you to be design table experts, but at least a little bit of a comfort level as the book's telling you to do something, you can probably have the knowledge you need to be able to successfully do it. I kind of like to use, I like to use configurations for the exam for whatever reason. But it works the same as if you just save as the parts as you move on to the next question. The big thing is on that certification exam is you need to be able to go back to before you started monkeying with things. If you knew it was good, and start again if you need to, right? So either getting a really good practice of saving your parts after every question, or use configurations with or without design tables. But design tables are something that all these packages can use something similar. Inventor can do something similar. Creo can do something similar. And it's pretty common in industry and working in mechanical design to have these table type parts and drawings. All these toolbox fasteners that we bring in are all these configured parts like this. Any questions about design tables? Remember, if it's blue and underlined, don't click on it. Because you're going to be, what's that? Yeah. If you like type in one of the dimensions names and it has that @ symbol, Excel automatically thinks it's a hyperlink to an email address. And when you click on it, it starts trying to open up Outlook, and you just got to sit there and wait till it decides it can't do it. So how do you get that hyperlink away?
Arrow up, right click.
Use the arrows to get on it, right click, remove hyperlink. And if you type in, it may not be vertical like the one next to it, right? It may be sideways. I think I saw that on cameras. You can always use the match properties. Looks like a little paintbrush. Pick on the one you like and pick on that one that goes. So match properties, kind of one of those things. Questions? All right, we'll get back to it then. You'll be set. That one. Okay. It's probably suppressed as the spell. So just put an S there. Just put an S. See how, there's nothing really there. That was really weird. Okay, so go back to what is three down and then click on it and see distribute. Now put the name on there. And now you get the next. So please click outside. That's where it was. It just didn't have that header to tell me where it was. Stop this.